And again, I'm not here to tell you that money should be the first thing, that your health should be the first thing. You got to tell me what's a priority. And then we need to go, is this reality that you're living matching your actual priority? And also, how are you feeling? Because if you feel like hot shit all the time, maybe this is not what we should be doing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Club Nurse. My name is Colton Lord, the host of this podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. We're going a little bit different. My guest, T, is not in healthcare, but I think that she can provide us with some really good information. And I think a lot of nurses out there who may be struggling with certain things will really benefit from what T has to do and what T has to offer. So go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us kind of what you do in the world.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. My name is Tanya, better known in the coaching industry as Coach T. I run a private practice out of Montreal, Canada, coaching individuals across Canada, the US, and Europe when it comes to anything regarding personal or professional development. And the conversations with individuals vary tremendously across the board. The format is virtual. We do everything online, which is great. And the sessions are super powerful. I'm someone who's really driving action and getting people to actually not only know what they need to do, but actually do what they need to do in order to get to where they're trying to get either in their personal life or professional life or any obstacles where they're feeling stuck or struggling with. And I've been doing this for 7 years now, and it's been a blast. It's an extremely rewarding job, and I genuinely just love having the front row seats in people's lives and helping them navigate through challenges and also just keep building on what they've already built in their life.
I love it. That to me sounds super fulfilling that you get to kind of play that role and that people are coming to you and trusting you with like, hey, like I am having this hurdle, this obstacle. I need your help to kind of maybe guide me through this. I know your personal story to an extent of like how you were in corporate, correct? And then you kind of were like pivoted to this role. So talk to me about how that came about. Like at what point were you like this something's just not working and how did you pivot out of that role? Or was it something that you were feeling like like dissatisfied or were you satisfied? Like how did that kind of happen for you?
Yeah, of course. So I worked corporate roughly the amount of same time as I'm doing what I do now, at least 7 or 8 years. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, specifically in advertising. And I wasn't someone who left my job to start this because I hated my job. On the contrary, I loved working in pharma. It's very creative, it's very high energy, dynamic.
Oh, you worked
Um,
in pharma. So you
yeah,
were you were kind of in like
a little bit. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
I have like a little like dotted line towards nurses and physicians
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff from like a different lens.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I loved it. I love learning about different like therapeutic areas. I love managing people. I love working on campaigns. So I personally left because I was I was going through the corporate ladder, right? I graduated university over like 15 years ago. I got into the industry and I was loving it. And I was also gunning for like certain roles and certain salaries and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. And I did that. And then once I got to a certain point in my career, I was like, okay, but there's something missing. And it's hard to describe that, but there was like genuinely a
Just like
void
felt
in
it.
my gut and I just
Mm.
felt it. And I didn't quite know what that puzzle piece was to fill. But I knew my time in pharmaceutical advertising was done. And despite not knowing my next step, I just knew I needed to take a break and walk away. That being said, there was a lot of things in parallel through my corporate career that happened. There was I struggled heavily with having an eating disorder. My mom had a terminal illness my entire life, and the last couple years were like very challenging. And then her passing away and being the primary caregiver to that, there was a lot of other like family dynamics and just difficult things that people go through in life that just open your eyes and perspective of like what actually fucking matters in my life and what am I chasing. And there was a shift, and I was no longer chasing the corporate ladder, and I wanted to chase fulfillment, for a lack of better words. And so I just decided that I was going to quit my job without having a flushed out business plan or knowing everything for my next year or 3 year or 5 year plan. And I said, I'm just going to bet on myself and I'm going to take the time to step away from corporate to think about myself, my personal development. Like, what do I want my next chapter in my life to be? And that's how I stepped out of corporate.
I love that. So kind of like what I'm hearing from you is you had this feeling, you had this kind of just like inner knowing, and you didn't have to wait for the perfect, the stars to align because they never do. There's never it's like people planning to have kids. Like there's never a perfect time for anything like that. Like any big move like that in your life. So it sounds like that you just kind of trusted that knowing and just kind of went for it and you just learn day by day as you go. Did you have you I posted about this guy yesterday. You have to look him up on Instagram. But have you heard about the guy that his name's Oliver, who quit his job and is like sailing the world? I'm just gonna give you a little brief. I learned about him yesterday. Like I listened. Do you listen to Lewis Howes, his
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah.
Go listen to this episode he had on. I think he posted it yesterday. So this guy, I'm gonna give you a very brief overview of this guy. Then go listen. His name is Oliver. He's 29. I think 3 years ago he was like having some pain in his back. Went to the doctor. Was diagnosed with like basically was told his spine is like that of like a 120-year-old. So just like his mortality, he was like faced with like, oh my god, like I can go paralyzed any day. Like what's my lifespan? Whatever. Kind of went off the rails for like a little while, drinking, partying, whatever. Decided he kind of accidentally posted this video. He like recorded it, was not on social media, put it in his drafts on TikTok and accidentally posted it. Basically saying, I hate my corporate job. I hate what I do. Well, all his bosses saw it. And so he ended up like he had this just like dream of like, I just want to quit my job. I want to just sail the world. He never had sailed before. Quits his job, buys a sailboat, learns how to sail, and he just sailed from Oregon to Hawaii in a little tiny sailboat with his cat, Phoenix. And he in this process, somebody was like, you should document this, record it. And so and he like started posting it, went immediately viral. Like he has so many like followers, like everybody's like watching him. Like he has like little Wi-Fi out in the ocean to record what he's doing. It is insane. And so he talks about this, like, just this feeling like it took him getting this diagnosis, which I want people to understand, like, you don't need to wait for that to like open your eyes. I understand that like when people have these big moments, that is kind of what opens people's eyes. But he's just like, I just had this knowing, like, I didn't want to just like work this corporate, buy the house, have the fence, have the family, like, and he just like went for it. He like liquidated his like 401k and just like went for it. And it is insane. Like now he's just like taking off. He's on all these like he's on these podcasts. When he got to Hawaii, like people were like waiting for him because they knew he was coming. Like it's crazy. So go check him out. Go listen. That's your homework to go listen to that episode
I
today.
am 100% gonna listen to that because I love hearing stories like that, and typically, you're right, it's someone in their family getting diagnosed with something, or someone passing away, or something uber tragic where it, like, whiplashes people into reality, and what I keep telling people is don't wait until the doctor diagnoses you, or someone dies in your family, or something drastic happens, right? Because we hear that all the time, 44-year-old had a heart attack, 32-year-old diagnosed with cancer. It's like, are we really gonna wait for something that
Yeah.
bad to happen to take action on our own lives? If you know right now there's like a feeling internally that you're already not at the right place. And
Right.
that said, I always, throughout the entire journey of making this like drastic decision, reminded myself of what Gary Vaynerchuk says all the time. Corporate is always gonna fucking be
Always.
there.
Yeah.
Pharma is going nowhere. So if I decide in 2 years that this is no longer serving me, or that if this never worked out to what I thought it was, I can go right back to where I
Right.
started, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's just like it's just knowing and then right, and if you do end up going back, you at least know inside, what, I tried. I gave it a shot. I realized it actually wasn't what I wanted. I was good with this life in corporate and just living my life kind of not having to like chase these big dreams, like, and it's okay, but you tried. So kind of explain to me before we kind of jump into like what I have for the idea of this episode, explain to me what's the difference between like a life coach and going to like a therapist?
That's a great question because a lot of people will come and go, I've just done a whole lot of therapy and now I need coaching. And I'm like, great. So there are certain things that I'll tell you the similarities so you can place yourself if whoever's listening has gone to therapy. It's the same in the sense that it's weekly, it's an hour, whether it's like virtual or in person. So that setting is the same. It's a safe space. Everything stays within the four walls of us connecting. There is a confidentiality agreement where I don't share any information about my clients. Clients can share as much as they want or please to. It's different from the point of view that therapy works backwards. So they meet with you where you are today and they reverse engineer their therapy sessions based on what's happened from, let's say, the 40-year-old they're talking to zero, from 0 to 40. Versus people who are coming for coaching are like, hi, this is where I'm at my life. And we're coaching them forward. So it's
Okay.
very pragmatic, it's very action oriented. We do talk about feelings, we do talk about the reality of what's going on, but from a point of view of like giving them the tools that they need to move in this direction and less of the unpacking of where all of this comes from. That said, the lines do get blurred on certain topics depending on what people are coming from because as much as you're moving forward, your past is always within you. So there are little things that come up. But I would say the biggest difference is that we're driving forward and therapy is reverse engineered.
Yeah, so I think having kind of both, I feel like is very beneficial because I think there's great benefit in kind of going back and figuring out why you do the things you do, why you react the way you do, why these things are coming up, and kind of pinpointing those, healing them the best you can, and then taking this approach of like coaching and being like, how can I now move forward with my life with a better point of view, and how can I actually like put into action these things that I want in my life. Is that correct?
Like, you nailed it, and there are a ton of clients that I work with and currently work with who do both. They'll do therapy, and they'll say it's very different. Coaching with you is so different than therapy, and there's other people who did therapy for a really long time, and now they just do, coaching. So they like, our worlds are complementary, we're not competing at all. Coaching is totally different, but I say the best word is complementary to each other.
Okay, gotcha. What are you when people are first coming to you, what are you noticing are like the biggest barriers that people have to like making taking that next step, or like they have this goal in mind, they have this dream, something's on their heart. Like what are you seeing as like their biggest barriers? Is it like fear of failing? Is it scarcity of money? Is it like so many different things? Or are there a couple things you can like really pinpoint with people?
It's really different with different people. I'd say the underlying one is fear. So whether it's fear of the unknown, fear of like, what if this doesn't work out? Fear of people fear success and are they capable to like maintain that? Fear of what people are gonna think, what people are saying. But I would say the underlying thing is fear.
It's fair, yeah, and I think that it's so much easier to, like, say this than to, like, put things into action because 'cause you're like, "Yeah, you know, like, the fear's gonna be there, go do it, you know, whatever," but I think, I've never actually had, like, a coach, but I can imagine that for me personally, when I think back to times where, like, I've had this fear or, like, I've kind of, like, stepped back because I'm afraid of whatever, like, if you have that person just like a therapist, like, when you're taking a couple steps back, when you meet again to just have that reminder, like, "Hey, it's okay," like, this is normal. What you're going through is normal. These feelings are going to keep happening. Just keep going. Like take the next step. Like it's not going to change overnight. I imagine that's where people get these big breakthroughs. And do you witness that? Like, do you see people find it's like that aha moment of like, oh my god, like they did have that like breakthrough. That's got to be so satisfying. As like somebody as a coach watching this.
It's like it's so satisfying because what I tell people is like, I'm not only on the front line, I am like on the field with you, right? When we do things together. And I pride myself in really becoming like tight with my clients. And so it's very gratifying to see them hit a breakthrough or achieve something they've been wanting to, or whether it's micro or on a macro level. And even after people have worked with me, like when I get an email from previous clients going, "Hey, I just wanted to give you an update. Like this happened and that. And if it wasn't for your support and your accountability," and I'm just like, there's no money in the fucking world that takes that, like, and you know what I mean? And I don't take credit for all of it because I always tell my
Sure,
clients, like, you're doing the work and like we do it together. But
but being
yeah,
part of that.
it's so, so gratifying.
I can only imagine that, yeah, that feeling of just like being a part of somebody's story. And then so how long are on like on average, like does this also vary? Like how long are people typically needing like coaching? Because when I think about a therapist, like, you know, for like right now, like I'm going to weekly therapy. I feel like there's gonna be at some point in my life to where like hopefully I don't need that every week. And I kind of just like have that therapist like, hey, like I'm going through a crisis or something came up, like can we schedule something? Is that how coaching work? Or is it just like you have them on like a program? Let's go 6 months. Or how does that work?
So I don't force anyone to go for like 6 months or 3 months. It really is on a weekly basis. And the life cycle really depends on the individual. I'll be honest in saying most people will come with one thing. And then once we work through that, life is happening while we're coaching. And so they'll bring in another topic and we'll go for personal to professional to this to that to like and we'll just evolve. So my relationship with my clientele, like the retention rate is really high. It's not like I just work with people for a couple months and they're gone. That wouldn't be the average. The life cycle is like I had clients I've been working with for like over 5 years, and
Oh,
we've
wow.
addressed like a ton of stuff. But I say it's more on the years than months. Is there people who will reach out and just there's one specific thing they just want to work on, and we just like work on that and hyper focus on it for a little bit, and then they're off and they go 100%.
Mhm.
But it's not the average. The average is more kind of like therapy, where it's an investment where you also get used to having a person, right? Like a lot of clients will give that feedback of like, can I do it without you at this point? Because I've been working for so long. But
Yeah,
there's a sense of like, I'm unbiased. I'm not your husband. I'm not your wife. I'm not like your mother. I'm not the neighbor. Like I have no bias. I'm on your team, but I will
right.
tell you what it is, right? Like I'm very transparent in that way, and people really appreciate that. So it's a safe space to know every Friday at noon, like it's real talk. We're working on this, and I can bring anything up, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love and, like, what you said made me think about, like, when I first went to therapy, I went to therapy with a goal in mind, like, there was something that was happening I wanted to address, and, like, the second like, literally, like, my first session, I had, like because I wanted to go kinda unpack my childhood, that was, like, the original reason I went, to kinda heal that, like, inner child w and do that inner child work, but then, like, I had a major crisis happen literally, like, right before my first episode, and that's pretty much been the focus of most of my therapy for now for, like, 6 or 7 months. Of course, I've, like, thrown in some things about my childhood, and we've talked about it, but it's just yeah, it's funny, like, you go for a goal or, you have a goal in mind, and then things just start you just once you start talking, you will amaze yourself at how much, like, you're keeping inside. I even had this yesterday, like, I saw my therapist yesterday. I was like, "I'm so angry, like, I feel so angry," and, like, as soon as I just, like, started talking to her about it, I was like, "Oh my god," like, I felt so much better. And I feel like, again, like, it's similar to this coaching that you're saying, like, you have these things, like, maybe people have never even said out loud, like, "Oh, like, I have this dream on my heart," because they feel people will judge them or people will be like, "That's, not realistic," or all these fears, and I just imagine, like, having like, how the empowering that feels to just finally just, like, say it and have somebody look at you and not be like, be like, "You're crazy," like, "You can do this, you can take those steps." I love what you're doing. I love your platform. I wanted to kind of take this time to kind of go through like a little session of like what it would look like if I came to you. This platform, the podcast is called Club Nurse. So it's a pretty new podcast. I'm imagining that a lot of the audience is going to be in healthcare and nurses. And I don't know exactly like what your extent of experiences is with like nursing. But the big thing in nursing is a lot of burnout, a lot of maybe wanting to like switch directions, but being afraid to do that because as nurses, we've invested so much time and energy into this career. And it's almost, I say this a lot, like it's really almost cult like. Like once you get into being a nurse, it's like, how the hell do I get out of this if I want out? So would you be down to kind of like go through like what you like little tools or like what you would say if I was coming to you?
Yeah, 100%. Do you want me to like unpack like from beginning of how I would handle a situation with that?
Yeah, yeah. So say I came to you and I'm like, "Hey T, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for let's just say let's say I'm at a 4 year mark of being a nurse. I'm feeling I was really excited when I first started. I worked through the pandemic. I'm just feeling like really burnt out, not finding as much joy as I used to. It's not what I thought it would be. Really wanting to kind of change directions. Like what like so then how would you start from there?
So I would like take that and I would consider that just like an initial conversation. I always do a full deep dive consultation session with anyone that I work with in order to really understand also like where are people coming from, first of all. So like what is your past? Give me like the 411 on that. And then tell me what you just told me, which is your current reality today of why you're reaching out for coaching. But I also like to get to know people from like a character and personality. Are you like a morning person? Are you a night person? Are you intro? Are you extro? Are you like routine oriented? Do you own the day? Does the day own you? Like really understanding the perfect person, really even outside, because it gives me perspective of like what's important to them, what's not so important, what's a priority, and like how do they manage their life. A lot of people are overwhelmed, or a lot of people struggle with prioritizing, excuse me, time, right? So I do a full deep dive in that besides the main thing they come for me for. And then we'll dive into exactly what you said. Like, this is why I'm coming, this is what I'm struggling with. And I'll get really curious as to how long have you been feeling this way? What are you doing about it? Like, what works? What doesn't work? And then what are you looking for? And some people will say, well, I'm really looking for this, 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 and it's really clear. And other people are like, I have no idea. I just feel overwhelmed, burned out. I've been doing this for years. It's no longer served me. I don't know if I should stay and just like ride the wave till the end of time, or should I make a switch? Then I go, what's getting in your way? Is it fear of what people are going to think? Is it financial? Which, by the way, is a big reason why people will not quit their jobs. And I always tell people, right? They'll ask me about my story and they'll go, like, was that an issue? I said 100%. Like,
Yeah.
what people don't see is like, yeah, I quit a corporate job that was paying me six figures, sure, but I still had a mortgage to pay and car payments and this and that. But I went to work three jobs behind the scenes while I was building a business, right? Like, people don't see that side of it. So finance is a big thing that comes up of why people, then there's like, if you're in a family dynamics, like the husband, the wife, the kids, like, what are they going to say about it? It's a lot easier to stay where you are and just suck it up, buttercup, versus starting something new. So really untangling for them, like, what is the fear? Is it financial fear? Is it fear that you're going to fail? And then like building a roadmap. So what I tell people is like, I get in the car with you and we build a roadmap as to what are the next steps based on, do you really want to get out of that career, or do you want to stay in the career and just pivot and set some boundaries, or do it part-time, or like weighing out all the options. So part of the initial conversations is like, what's the problem? What are the barriers? What are the fears? What's holding you back? And I'm not here to tell you what direction to go. Like, I never tell people you should do this or that, but I go, let's just look at the options and then compare that to what's important to you right now, not what was important to you 4 years ago when you started that career, right? Like, and where do you see yourself going in the future as well? And having these conversations, and when people actually get out of their head and talk, a lot of shit comes to reality because they're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a sticking point, or I didn't, do you know what I mean? So then we can really send them reflection questions. So I'm really big on sending homework after every session. So yes, this session is an hour and it's powerful, but I'm not with you the other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'll always send a recap email to clients going, hey, this is what we touch. This is what I need you to reflect on or work on, right? And that's custom to the conversation. And then they'll digest that all week and come back and they're like, okay, T, this came up. And we kind of build on that. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's a few things came to mind on these things that you're saying. First of all, I love how you send a recap because as soon as you said that, I was like, okay, if my therapist would just send me a recap, like, please, because you
Everyone says, every person who goes to therapy goes, why doesn't the therapist send a recap? I'm like, because they're a therapist, not
yeah.
coach.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I don't mean to keep comparing you to a therapist. It's just that's the only thing I can compare it to in my mind because I've never gone coaching. But yeah, how helpful is that to like? Because you leave and you're like, oh, I feel so much better. Then the next morning you're like, wait, what did we talk about? What did they say? Like that's super super helpful that you do that. And then yeah, I love how going back you help them to identify because I think people know like these things they need somebody as like you as a coach to be like to get it out of them like what are the barriers, why am I feeling this way, and kind of going back to talking about Oliver, the guy who's sailing around the world. It's like great for him, he doesn't have wasn't married, didn't have kids, as far as I know, not from what I've seen, didn't have these things that were holding him back. And it's like people have these real things that it's like I have a family of four. I can't just like go quit my job and like chase this dream. Like that's not always realistic. Like they need like you're saying, like how can we, maybe work a couple part-time jobs and do that as well and make it just like very personal to each person because we all have our own things, but not allowing the fact that you have four kids to not allow you to live the life that you're wanting to live. Like how can we make this realistic for you? And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on was like what's different from 4 years ago to now, like the evolution of who you are, because it's so different. I think a big thing for nurses, because you go to nursing school and they basically like put this roadmap in front of you or what you're going to do. Like you're going to graduate nursing school, you're going to go get a job, and then like yes, you can like maybe bounce around a little bit, try different specialties, but like this is what you're going to do. You're going to be a nurse. You see the nurses that are retiring, like, and it's like okay, but then maybe in a couple years, like, you realize, like, "Okay, like, this isn't actually what I wanna do with my entire life," and I have gotten to that point, and I think a lot of nurses, because of why we get into the field, because of the nature of the work, it's a lot of guilt. Like, you really feel like, "Oh my god, like, if I step away from this, if this isn't, like, what I do," it ties a lot into, like, the identity that I've made for myself in the last, 4 even longer because of nursing school. Like, say, again, if you were a nurse for 4 years, the schooling, if you went to university, it was 4 years. Like, the last 8 years, you've been building this identity of who you are. And then imagine even if you've been a nurse longer, like 10 years, like that just keeps that's so embedded in who you are that I can see why like people are so afraid to be like, like this isn't working for me. And you feel crazy because you're like, why? But the thing is everyone else is probably not everyone, but a lot of people are feeling that way. They're just not gonna say it, right?
And a lot of people are waiting for a permission slip. So that's something
Yes.
that I've heard over the years of coaching where like I'm giving them a permission slip. I'm like, I'm not giving you nothing. I'm like, but
Yeah.
you talking it out, you're going to give yourself the permission slip to choose to do something different that's no longer serving you. Cause you're right. You're not exactly who you were 4 years ago. And you're also allowed to change your mind, which I think a lot of
Yeah.
people feel like I shouldn't. That's what I decided. That's what I need to do forever. That's what I've told people. Like I've been told by like C-suite level executives and companies that they don't wanna change their job because 'cause they're worried that when they get on LinkedIn and they change their job title, that people are gonna wonder. Like, that's fucking insane to me.
Crazy. Like you're living your life based on
I'm
that. Yeah.
like, "You're a C-suite individual, you're miserable, you're burnt out, and you're not gonna change your career because 'cause you're worried what 1,000 people on LinkedIn are gonna say when you go for CEO to something else." And I don't blame the guy, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really don't, but that's how much of a reality it is, and there's from that all the way down and in the middle, there's a lot of people who are stuck with, like, "What are people gonna think? What are they gonna say? Is it gonna work out? Am I allowed to change my mind?" And the answer is, like, for me, is at what cost are you gonna keep doing what you're doing, knowing damn well that it's no longer serving you? Right? Can
Right.
I run through burnout after burnout working corporate role? 100 fucking percent. I can. And
Yeah.
so can you. And you can work 12-hour shifts and you can keep grinding and grind. But who are you doing all this for? And why are
Right.
you doing it?
Right. And those are the huge questions. And I think going to like the C-suite executives, it's like they and a lot of us do this, and it's not to feel bad about yourself. Like this is very common. Like we tie so much our worth to these titles and these things that we're doing. And so when you've embedded so much of your identity or your worth into this, like of course like you're going to feel this terrible sense of self when you're like trying to maybe unravel that because like that's where your identity lies. Like that's where you feel you're getting your worth because people see that you're and I see this a lot in critical care nurses specifically because it's like you once you are like an ICU or an ER nurse, it's like this like it's so annoying. It's an ego thing because it's like, "Oh, you're so cool." Like, I can go and like how people always like, "Oh, like what's the craziest thing that you've seen in the ER?" And it's like once you people are constantly asking you that, you're like, "Oh, that's what people want to know about me." Like, "Hello, I can't just like leave this job. Like, I won't be cool anymore. Nobody will want to ask me questions if I'm like, telling them that I don't know, like, took the leap and did something else, Like, and so I think that's probably a big thing you see is just, like, people tying their worth into this identity of their title.
And like you see that with a lot of people who struggle with like self worth and confidence and who they are. So a lot of the work that I also do with certain individuals is really like doing the groundwork of really redefining like who are you, and people are like that's a really tough question. I'm like good, but if we
That's
can't ask
scary.
who you are, like we have a problem, right? If you want to build a house we need to pour the foundation. So like who am I today, not who was I 10 years ago, right? And like what's important to me and what matters, and like how strong is my self-worth. A lot of people will say it's like I always do a scale of like a scale of 1 to 10. A lot of people, my self-worth is like 4 and my confidence is 4 and this whatever, like it's really low, and it's like why is that? And then other people, like you said, attach who they are, like, to what they do, right? So they identify Tanya is a coach and that's what she is. The CEO client I was giving you an example of attaches himself as the as that, not as a father, not as a golfer, not as someone who likes to travel, like at all. All they do is they see
Mm,
themselves for what they do professionally. And then it's like,
yeah. Yeah, and that's the issue is, like, if that is stripped away, like and if that's the thing that people don't realize is those titles are you're vulnerable to losing that at any point, like, to, the economy going crazy and you lose your job or just, like, what if something happens and you are physically unable to be a nurse now at the bedside and, like, it's like you lose that and it's like, oh, like, it's not again, it's not to fault anyone, like, we all have been born into the system that, like, makes you think that that's where your worth lies, like, what's the when you get to when I remember, like, as early as, like, junior high school being asked, like, "What do you wanna do?" And it's like, What?" Like, I have no idea, I can't even drive a car, like, it's just it's insane to me to think back and, like, I I've had these experiences with, people, I don't have kids, so I am like 0% trying to tell anybody how to raise a child. But like a specific example of somebody who had a child who was graduating high school. The kid did not want to go to college, but the mom was like, you have to go to college. Like, you need to do this. Like, you have no other plan. And I kept telling her, I'm like, no, just let him. Like, let him go work at the coffee shop for a year or two because, like, you don't understand how much they're going to gain of just like themselves versus like going to just, if they don't want to go to college, like, they're not going to get anything out of it. They're going to spend all this money. And it's like, but that's the system we're born into. And it's again, not to fault the mother. Like, that's like what she's been told. Like, you have to do this. Like, this is how you are going to make money. And it's like, no, like, it's not that way. But like, yes, we get to that point where like we have to do XYZ. We're following the map that we've been given. And so yeah, I love that you are able to kind of spin the perspective for people to like see it a little bit differently. If I came to you again as this nurse and I'm just like, okay, like I'm just really burnt out. I just have this feeling I'm not satisfied. I'm lacking a lot of joy. Like, my job is just not doing it for me anymore. But I'm not at the point to where like I don't really have this like dream to chase, like, but like how do I combat this like burnout that I'm feeling with while keeping this job that I have? Like, where would you start with somebody?
I would start with like where are you spending your time and where are you spending your energy. So if I were to open up like your iPhone calendar or however you track what you're doing in life, where's your time and energy going? And so if we see that you're working 60-hour work weeks, great. And there's nothing else, everything else is chores or responsibilities or to-do lists. I would go, well, you want joy, but where's the joy in your week? Right? Because joy as adults, as kids, everything is joyful. Like
Yeah.
your mom's like, we're gonna go to the grocery store. You're like, yeah. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? As an
Yeah.
adult, you have to intentionally like take action and inject joy if that's the feeling that you're describing. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I would look at your calendar and go, why are you feeling overwhelmed? And yeah, it totally makes sense. You're working 12-hour shifts nonstop. You don't get any me time. You don't unplug. You don't do, okay, great. So reworking their current reality. So if they're saying, I'm going to stay in this for financial reasons, great. But how can we retweak your hours and your time and energy spent to support you better? If you're someone who used to go to the gym and you haven't gone in weeks, it's like, hey, how do we re-inject that in micro dosing it in your calendar in order to give you that space for yourself, right? So it's assessing the current situation, just stepping back and going, how is he or she spending their time? And is that actually serving you or not serving you?
Okay, yeah, so it's like a reprioritizing of what you're already doing, of like, yes, finding those, like you said, like, oh, you're working 60-hour weeks, like, hello, no wonder you're burnt out. Sure, your bank account might look nice, but if you're feeling terrible, then what's the point? So it's like,
Sorry to cut you off. And then it goes, let's match it to his priorities or her priorities. So, like, if money is super important, then you may have to suck it up and work that many hours and be okay with the fact that you have less me time or
mhm,
that you have less time to inject things that make you happy and whatever. But you have to match the current reality to the person's priorities and what matters to them. And again, I'm not here to tell you that money should
yeah,
be the first thing, that your health should be the first thing. Like, do you know what I mean? You got to tell me what's a priority. And then we need to go, is this reality that you're living matching your actual priority? And also, how are you feeling? Because if you feel like hot shit all the time, maybe this is not what we
yeah.
should be doing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you're not there to, like, change somebody's mind. Like, if I came to you and I was like, "Look, T, like, all I care about is making as much money as I can. I don't care if I am gaining weight, if my health is terrible, like, I just need to make all this money." Like, you're not there to be like, "Oh," try to, like, change their mind. But I feel like what my gut tells me is if somebody comes to you and tells you this through the coaching, like, they may end up reprioritizing this themselves when they realize, like, I've just been, like, fed this lie that, like, I have to have X amount of money or I need to, like, this is again, going I feel like this a lot of this goes back to, I feel like, worth, and I almost am tying this to, like, myself, like, you think, like, my worth and, like, what people think of me, it's, like, tied to, like, how much money I'm making, like, that's how I'm, like, feeling like I'm doing the right thing versus if you're making all this money but feeling terrible, again, what's the point?
And it depends from like one client to another, right? Like I personally have struggled my whole life with like performance anxiety because I
Mhm.
was raised in an environment, but like by what you do matches your self-worth. So that narrative is what I worked through therapy for years of like, you are not what you do. What comes
Right.
in from like your paycheck is not define your worth. A lot of people have that issue and then other people don't. But to go back to your example, like I had the client who goes, yeah, I work like 80 hours a week and I plan on working like 90 because my priority is career and I'm gunning for it. I'm never going to tell that person, well, like, you should like, no, if that's what you
No.
want, by all means, full throttle, like, go for it. But, I'll be like, maybe we should consider like your health because you're fine today. And if you're not fine 2 weeks from now, how are you getting to that? Maybe we
Yeah.
should prioritize this for consideration. And then most of the time people see where I'm coming from and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, great. But I'm not prescribing you what you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah. It really seems to me like it's a lot of just like getting people to just like give themselves the answers. Like we come as people, like it's like we said earlier, we deep inside know, like maybe subconsciously we know what we need. Like why else would somebody be coming to you if like they didn't have this like sense of like something's off or like I know something's in there. It's just like getting that out of you. And it's like, again, it's like when you start talking about it to like, not just to like, I think it's very important on who you're talking about this information to, because if you're talking to someone that you consider like a best friend and maybe they don't have the best insight or like they're steering you in a certain direction. I feel like it's important where you're getting that energy from, and I feel like having a coach that is like that just has that unbiased outlook on your life can just give you like a different perspective, and just something little that you say to them like maybe you should be thinking about your health, or if you great if you're working 90-hour weeks but then you die next week of a heart attack, what's the point of your 90-hour weeks? It just gives them like that, again, permission to maybe think about it and be like, oh, maybe I can cut it back a little bit, and not have to like work so much to like feel. Yeah, it's like it is an addiction. I mean, work addiction, right?
Yeah, and I often also share like I'm a big like podcast junkie. So if
Mm,
there are certain topics of
same.
podcasts that like I listen to that resonate with what we're working with clients, I'll be like, here, like if you have time this week while you're driving in traffic to work or drop off or whatever you're doing, like pop this in and listen to it. I do the same thing with people who tell me like, do you have book recommendations on what we talk about? And I'll be like, yeah, like I have a slew of them. I would recommend like read the backs of these and let me know where. And then we'll even discuss the podcast episode, right? And we'll discuss the chapter that they're reading because it's helpful because we're applying it, right? And so what's nice is with coaching one-on-one is it's customized to you. I can have the same avatar client, like three people are the same thing, but they're not because they're built differently and they think differently and they have different perspectives. So it's nice to pair like what I'm saying, what they're feeling, a book, a podcast, an article, and like leverage all the tools, and then the client at the end of the day will they know. Like if you reached out and you wrote me an email and said, "Hey, are you taking new clients?" My first thing is, what made you write that email, right? Or if I get the notification through my website, I go, "What prompted you to go on my website?" Do you know what I mean? Like there's obviously you don't just randomly fall into coaching. You don't just randomly end up at the therapist's office, as you know, right?
Yeah, I think that I love how like you say about like the books and the podcast, because people forget like how much information we have today. Like there's literally like you can find a podcast or a book for literally
Everything.
anything. And I think you and I kind of we cross over a lot with like the podcasts we listen to, because I see like what you share and I'm like, oh yeah, I listened to that, or like, oh, I've got to catch that episode. And I think for me, the reason that I like to listen to these podcasts, like some of my favorite podcasts are conversations between people and just hearing somebody else's story, because when you hear somebody's story, first of all, a lot of times it's inspiring, and you realize like, oh, they didn't just like wake up one day and become the biggest star. Like they like there's so much. And even that, you don't have to even compare yourself to someone like Taylor Swift. Like just like hearing from just like a regular old person who like just like was like, you know what, like this is what it took for me to get here. Like you start to realize like, okay, if I want this other life, like if I really truly want these things or have these aspirations, like it's gonna take there's gonna be some lows, it's gonna be challenging. And at the end of the day, what I've gained from all that is nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Like nobody has this like wakes up with this exact map of like, this is how you get from A to B to Z. Like you just go, and then you get there by doing and taking actions. And I think that's so um like relates to just like our lives in general. Like if you even if it's not like you have a specific goal in mind, it's just like, I want to feel this way. Like I just want to feel joy again. Like I want to feel peace in my life. Like it's going to take work, and it's going to take things like therapy, like coaching, like identifying those things. Um and yeah, so I love that you give people like those different perspectives, because when you hear it and you can relate to somebody else, like that's how you kind of start to like, oh, like maybe I can actually live like my life that way.
And what I like to continue on that, like what I love about listening to podcasts of people's success stories of where they come from, the majority of people who have become quote unquote successful by society come from nothing. Okay. And what I love to tell people is we're all born as humans. And yes, everyone is a little different, but it should be encouraging and proof that if they can accomplish something, so can you. So it comes down to like, how bad do you want it? How willing are you how willing are you to work really, really hard for it? And like, is your why strong enough? You know what I mean? And if it is, there's no way in hell that you work this hard and life doesn't reward you, right? And don't think that he or she is better and has more tools and they're maybe, but at the end of the day, they're accessible to you too. So if you really want something in your personal life or your professional life or to get over something or whatever that may be of why you're reaching out for support, if they can do it, you can do it. And that's what I love about listening to podcast stories, even like business owners or entrepreneurs or whatever it is. I'm like, holy shit, that was your fucking childhood. I thought mine was fucked up. Or that's all the businesses that failed before that one. You know what I mean? Like they say, it takes one opportunity, it takes one conversation, it takes one thing and it changes your whole world around, right? But that applies to us, that applies to them too, right? And I often tell people imperfect action beats no action. So even if you fail 10 times, that still is moving the needle in the right direction versus standing and doing nothing because you think you should be doing the right thing.
Right. I had like full body chills when you were talking about that because it's so true. And really what it does for me is it humanizes these people that like we look at and think like, they're insane. They're like otherworldly. And it's like, yeah, like some of them have insane talent. There's maybe some luck involved in a lot of these things, but like they basically just like they went for it. They believed in themselves. And like my thing too is like you don't have to be like number one on the Billboard charts or number one New York Times bestseller or like, like you don't have to have a $1 billion business, but it's like if you are really just like doing what you feel is like on your heart and again like we talked about earlier, even if like ultimately you fail at that thing, like you are going to be so much more fulfilled and have so much more life experience and like what a much better story to tell later on in your life that like you did all these things versus like, oh, I was too afraid. I just worked this job 9 to 5 for the rest of my whole life. And I always tried to like reiterate the fact that like there's nothing wrong with that. If you love the 9 to 5, if you want the house with the fence with the family and you just love that, like please, like that, there's nothing wrong. I think sometimes maybe people feel that way that it's like not okay, but it's like I always try to say like, no, it's okay. And it truly, truly is. Like if you find joy and satisfaction and like you want to live in just like your little corner of the world, raise your family, like that's beautiful to me. But like there's just a lot of people out there that I just don't think want that and just need something to like push them to like just take the first little step. And it's like you don't have to make this like big drastic change. Like you don't have to quit your job. Like you can like start to like, take little small steps to like distance yourself from that or just like do little like one little thing each day to like change into the towards the direction that you want to. Because I also think if you for most people, if you make that big change overnight is when a lot of it just crashes down because it's like it's scary, it's hard, it's too much at one time. So it's like small incremental changes.
One thing when you were talking that popped up in my mind is there's this one question that I ask everyone in my consultation is, what's your definition of success?
Yes,
Okay.
huge.
And people look at me like, well, what's the right answer? And I'm like, there's no right answer. One person's going to tell me that success for them is to make $1 million, and the next person's going to tell me success is for them to raise a family. Someone else is going to tell me to be able to retire at like 50 and live on the south of France. Like, I'm not here to tell you what success is, but if you don't know what success means to you, that's
Yeah.
another thing we need to unpack. My definition of success, when people ask me, they're shocked. People think it's like to grow my business international, to be like the next Mel Robbins. Like people often refer to me like to people like that in the industry. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm like, my definition of success is that I wake up every single day and I'm healthy and I enjoy what I do. And the day I'm not healthy and the day that I no longer like what I do, I am packing it up, right? But that requires like self awareness because people are like, you would pack everything up for those. I'm like, 100%. Like, if I wake up one day and it's not serving me and I'm not excited to jump in this office and do what I do, I will close it, no shame, like, people are gonna talk, sure, but people talked when I quit my corporate job, people talked when they saw me checking out people at the Lululemon cash register when I was working part-time, and they're like, what's going up? You know what I mean? So you can't be so overconsumed of like, what is the right thing to do? The right thing to do would have been to get married at 28, to pop out kids at 32, to buy a house at 33. It's like, is everyone doing that? Maybe, maybe not. But what is your definition? And is your definition aligned to what you're doing, basically?
Right. Ugh. Yeah. I love that. And I think more people need to hear it and just and put it into practice and like actually sit down and like you don't even have to have a coach for that. Like you can just sit down and like what is success? Like what does a fulfilled life look like for me? And when I envision myself towards the end of my life, like what do I want to, see in myself? And it's not even like my accomplishments. It's just like how do I want to feel? And I think that's a huge point to make. To kind of, I want to be conscious of your time, but to kind of wrap this up, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, but give us a couple like of your podcast or book recommendations, just like off the top of your head. I'll give you a couple of mine. One that I think I know that I've given you maybe one or two book recommendations, but one of my all-time favorite books I think everybody should read is called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. It's by Bronnie Ware, I think is her name. Did I ever tell you about that one? Did you read it?
Yes, that book is,
I need to read it again,
yeah.
honestly. It's amazing. It gives you great perspective from I think she's Australian or from New Zealand. She was a caregiver, and she basically just like gives you the perspective of people who were dying and what they regretted from their life. So that's one of my top recommendations. But do you have any?
I'm thinking podcast and not books, so can I
Yeah,
shout out
fine.
podcast
Of
recommendation?
course.
I really, really love Stephen Bartley, Diary of a CEO. He interviews people from all scopes of backgrounds on various topics, from like sex to entrepreneurship to mindset to money. I
So
love
good.
his format. His podcasts are so powerful. Obviously Mel Robbins is up there. Really enjoyed Jay Shetty, Lewis Howes, which you mentioned earlier, Huberman Lab. There's like a couple that are just like on my phone all the time that I listen. And then depending on like what you're into, obviously there's more specific ones, but I would say like those are the five that I'm always going to because it's really aligned in the work that I do.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good like mindset and just like just challenging your brain. And yeah, Stephen Bartlett's are very unique in the sense of like they're long form and he goes deep. Like these are people that like are very, very like, successful to, define whatever. Um and you hear like he usually gets them to tears and it's like again, it's the humanizing of them that you're like, wow, like people constantly tell him like, well, you're really good at this, you know?
But honestly, he's so calm as an individual, and when he just asks the questions, like there's an episode where he interviews like the head divorce lawyer in the US, which I'm like obsessed with him, and like the guy comes to freaking tears in the episode, and I'm like, it's so good.
I listen to all those. I don't think I've really listened to Huberman. I know who that is. I've heard him, I think, on other, but I don't listen to his. But the rest of those, yes, like I said, we cross over on like what we listen to. They're so good. But yes, like I told you, you have to go listen to the most recent one with Lewis.
I'll be doing that today.
Do it today and then go check out the guy's Instagram. You'll see on the podcast he'll put the links on there to the guy's social media, but it's inspiring. It's pretty cool. And it's also terrifying. Like 0% would I ever do that. Like when he's recording content in like middle of the ocean in his little sailboats, just like I'm like, no.
Never.
Never in a million years would I do that. Like I'm afraid being on a ship out in the middle of the ocean. Like you'll never catch me on a sailboat. No, thank you. uh, all right. Is there any parting words? How can people find you? What as far as like your on socials or your by the way, I love T socials. If you need just like your daily just positivity and just light, your social media is amazing for that. But yeah, how do people find you? How do people find your services? How can we find you?
So you'll find me really present on Instagram. So it's Coach T MTL on Insta. And you could see me having dance parties in my kitchen to dropping like real talk to meal prepping and being at rugby practice or throwing some weights around at CrossFit. So it's really lifestyle. But I say that's the main place. And then to contact me if you're interested, of course, on my website, which you can access through Instagram. Everything is basically coachtmtl.com. So they can reach out there and just shoot me an email, click the form to have a free discovery call. That's a service that I offer to anyone internationally, right? I'm able to jump on your time zone 20 minutes for free. What's going on? See if we're a good fit. That's really important for me. I won't just take anyone on. I really have to like who are you? Can I help you? Do you fall into my wheelhouse? And if you do, I'm happy to jump on board if you're ready and support you. So I encourage people to like even just leverage that as like an initial conversation if you're interested.
Love it. MTL, is that, does MTL stand for Montreal?
It
I'm just putting
does,
that
it
together.
does, it does. And the reason I did that was because just Coach T was not available any back in the day. And I was like, all right, we're gonna put an MTL to it and people will just know I'm based here, but I coach all over the world.
Yeah, yeah. I literally just put that together. Like when you said MTL, I was like, wait, I think that's Montreal. That's great. Well, thank you so much for just giving us your perspective, your wisdom, just being a light in the world. Like I really, really, I've told you this so many times. Like I just appreciate the work that you do. Even for me, just to like, if I'm scrolling on social media, I always am like, oh, I have to see like what's the story today, like what's going on. I love the gratitude dumps. I just love it all. Like you're just a light, and yeah. So thank you for this. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome and thank you for having me. Like honestly, I tell people it's an honor to sit in their lives and coach them, but even opportunities like this, I'm really grateful for them. So thanks for the conversation. It's been so fun.
Of course, and we'll have you on again, okay?
Okay.